Hi guys, today I'm gonna do a video showing you guys how to do a simple diagnostic on your RAM if your PC is not starting or just starting and rebooting constantly. It might be due to a RAM issue, and one way to find out is this video is gonna be pretty short and sweet because it's not really difficult. It's really for beginners, people who are not familiar with PCs. And first off, the thing you want to do is make sure all the RAMs you got are secured. This is an old motherboard. I'm just using it as an example. Even with the DDR4 that we use nowadays, it's the same process. First off, you want to make sure your RAMs are really secure and that the pins are pushed in and not like this, for example. You don't want the pin like this, so it's not really well seated. It might turn on, but it might also shut down for no reason because of that. So you want to make sure it's secured. By doing that, you really have to push hard and hear a click like you heard just a couple of seconds ago. Then next thing you want to do, if they're really secured, is to start off the PC, and if you have access to the BIOS, which I'm going to show you right now, the BIOS. So one thing you might want to do before looking at the BIOS is look what RAM you have right now and the megahertz you're supposed to be running at. It says here DDR3 1866 megahertz. Then those are timings 10, 11, 10, 30 and voltage. The thing that is most important is the megahertz 1866. Then you go into the BIOS, and to access the BIOS is basically you restart the computer or you just start it and press delete, and it will come up as the BIOS like this, or it might look different depending on the PC, but essentially the settings and features are really similar. Here you're seeing memory frequency 3200 megahertz. That's for my current PC right now, but for what we were talking about, 1866, it would be over here. Those are DOCP, so for AMD it's called that, and for Intel it's called XMP. And you want to select this one is the only choice, so you just press enter, and then you basically just leave the BIOS by saving the settings, save changes and reset. Reset means restarting the computer, and that's gonna allow you to run at this megahertz that you're supposed to. It detected my profile, my preset profile with the correct megahertz. That's where the RAM should be running at. Then if that doesn't work, you might want to try lower megahertz settings, like for example 3200 megahertz is right there. If for some reason it wasn't working and wasn't really starting properly, I would use different megahertz settings. 1866 was the megahertz you saw on the RAM stick I showed you guys. And if that wouldn't work, for example, that was DDR3, this is DDR4. But if that didn't work, I could lower it, for example, to make the PC a bit more stable, but it's not normal. It should run at what it says on the label, basically. So 1866 should be what it should run at with that motherboard and RAM combination. Okay, now if you lower the megahertz and it still doesn't work, I would suggest maybe removing each stick of RAM. Like for example, my cats are going crazy. So it doesn't boot like with these 4 RAMs or 2 depending on your rig. You just remove one, then you restart the PC. If it works, it works. Then you restart again, put the RAM back in. If it still doesn't work, I would change the RAM to different slots. You basically do that until it works. So you remove RAMs and put them back until it works. That's basically the point. If you have only 2 sticks, it's way easier and it's much simpler. Like with my AMD Ryzen 7, there's only 4 DIMMs like this. So one time for me it wasn't working, so I switched it up, and then it eventually worked. If it doesn't, you can remove the battery. Removing the batteries for the CMOS, it's for the settings you have on a BIOS. So it will put it, if you remove the battery, it will reset kind of the BIOS, so you can boot up and start with lower megahertz settings than what it was trying to do before, when it was crashing or shutting down. So in a scenario where you only have these 4 and with those 2 sticks it doesn't work, I would remove this one, which is already, you just remove it. You start the PC with only 1 DIMM. If it works, then you try to set up on the BIOS, you restart again and you set up in the BIOS your megahertz that's written on the label. Then you restart the PC, but with the added RAM. If that doesn't work, you can always like try to boot it up really, like boot it up often. It will eventually reset the BIOS megahertz for the RAM. If that doesn't work, you can also use, like I was using the red DIMM slots. You can use the black ones, but keep in mind, if you want to keep dual channel, you have to use both red or both black. So that's why they're color coded like this, because they work together for the CPU dual channel settings or quad channel, depending on what you have. So that's basically it. It's just a quick way to find out. Just to conclude, there's also another way to make a diagnostic on your RAM. Tom's Hardware website did an article on this in 2020. It's basically doing a diagnostic using Windows. I won't go too much into detail, but there's all the steps and stuff to do and what programs to use. That could be helpful for you guys with bigger issues, maybe. I'll leave the link in the comment section below. For this motherboard, it's a bit more advanced motherboard from back then. It was showing codes on this thing. The codes were just saying basically what was wrong with the boot ups, which was really useful, but a lot of motherboards doesn't have this anymore. So just keep in mind, you have to pay a lot of money to get a motherboard with this feature. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope it was helpful.